Now we move on to the half-orc, the largest of the standard races, other than, of course, the Dragonborn 5th edition, which I am not talking about in this series because it does not exist in 3rd, so we'll ignore that. The half-orc, like the half-elf, does not have any sub-races. So let us look at what orcs get, or half-orcs get. In 5th edition, of course, we start here, and we bring this up. Right here. First off, an ability score increase. Strength score +2, Constitution score +1. Because all races in 5th edition have a minimum of a total +3 to ability score increases. We get 2 to Strength and 1 to Constitution. This represents the general strength and hardihood of the orc heritage of the half-orc. We then have age. Half-orcs mature a little faster than humans, reaching adulthood around the age of 14, and they age noticeably faster, rarely living longer than 75 years. Now, you know, humans rarely live over 100. But it wouldn't be too uncommon to see a human older than 75, in their 80s, possibly 90s. Orcs are going to be rarely over 75. This is from the orc heritage, because in the D&D world, orcs live or age faster than humans, and so the half-orc gets a faster age. And just like the half-elf ages slower and lives longer, the half-orc ages faster and dies sooner. Now, alignment. It says they inherited a tendency towards chaos from the orc heritage and are not generally aligned towards good, but, you know, neutral, whatever. Again, but alignment's not that important in 5th edition anyway. So, size. Somewhat larger and bulkier than humans. They range from 5 feet to over 6 feet tall, but this still makes them medium, because medium, I believe, goes up to 8 feet. So they're usually bigger, taller than humans, but still medium, still have a speed of 30 feet. They have dark vision, because this is the only kind of special vision we get in 5th edition. We then have this, menacing. They get proficiency in the intimidation skill. And then we have relentless endurance. This is a unique thing to 5th edition. This and the next one. Very unique to 5th edition. Restless endurance. What this is that when the first time you are dropped to 0 hit points or less, you instead go down only to 1 hit point. This happens only once until you take a long rest. So in combat, you're dying, you get whacked a good one, and you're dropped down. You should be down, but because you're a half-orc, you don't go down. You get one more round, and if you can get healed, you're good. If you can't, well, the next time you're hit, you're out of it. But you get that little extra burst, or no, I wouldn't say burst, but just an extra ability to fight through what would be almost death for anybody else. And then the last one here, savage attacks. And this says anytime you roll a critical hit, you add an extra die to the damage. Now, you only get 1 die for whatever weapon you're using. So if you're using the great axe that does a d12, well, then you get an extra d12. But the great sword does a 2d6. And so you'd only roll an extra d6, not an extra 2d6. And this is only on critical hits, but it does give you this extra damage. And this is representing the tendency of brutality in the orc race and your orc heritage. And then, of course, you have your languages. Are common and orc, because you get those 2 languages. You get common and then your racial language. And this is the half-orc in 5th edition. They got these abilities. Mainly, things that you want to remember here are the relentless endurance and the savage attacks. The dark vision, you know, many other races have that, and the menacing just gives you proficiency in this one skill. But, you know, it's not a bad set of abilities there. Now let us look at this half-orc in 3.5 here. So we got first, +2 to strength, just like we do in 5th. But that's the only bonus we get, a +2 to strength. And then the half-orc takes a -2 to intelligence and a -2 to charisma. They're the only race that takes a penalty to 2 ability scores, but they still only get that +2 to strength. Now this represents their strength. Orcs are generally considered stronger, so a half-orc has this bonus to strength, but they are dull and crude, meaning that they aren't as intelligent naturally as other races, and in general, their savage nature makes them off-putting to other races. But they are still medium, They have a 30-foot movement speed, just like in 5th. They also have dark vision. And dark vision in 3rd, as I mentioned, talking about the dwarves, dark vision is actually stronger than low light vision. These are two separate things in 3rd edition. Dark vision is the stronger of the two. It doesn't have the range of low light vision, but it has better vision quality. The two of them in 3rd edition are combined into dark vision in 5th. So in 3rd, you have the two abilities separated. In 5th, they're all kind of the same thing in dark vision. So it translates over. And then we have this orc blood. And this is the same thing we saw with the half-elf having elven blood. Anything that would affect an orc, or that can be used only by orcs, the half-orc can be affected by and can use. Then we have automatic languages, common and orc, with your bonus languages being draconic, giant, gnoll, goblin, and abyssal. Again, 6 that you can choose from. Favored class, barbarian. Because again, orcs are brutal savages, and so the barbarian is what they would naturally gravitate to. Now you'll note, the half-orc doesn't get much in 3rd edition. They have the ability score adjustments, their size, their speed, and dark vision, and the orc blood. That's it. 5th edition, they have their size, their speed, their ability score increased, the dark vision, and then they get this bonus proficiency in intimidation, they get the restless endurance, making them harder to kill, and they get the savage attacks, making them deal more damage on a critical. They are also the only race that gets a -2 ability scores instead of 1, while, of course, they get a total of a +3 in 5th edition. They gave the orc these abilities here in 5th edition because they wanted to even out the abilities that were available to each race. And you'll note, if you go back and look at each race, every race has 3 or 4 abilities. Some of them will have like 2 standard abilities and then 2 or more that they get from sub-races. The orc had nothing from 3rd edition to translate over except dark vision, which is just your standard stuff. So they took the idea of an orc and tried to figure out what kind of abilities, what kind of special powers they could give this race in 5th edition, because that's what 5th edition needs. The 5th edition mechanic needs all races, except the human, to have these special qualities. Some have more than others, but they're all fairly well balanced. They're all, those that have more, generally the ones they have are somewhat weaker. I mean, these two things, the savage attacks, even though it's only for critical hits, that's a big bonus. A critical hit by any other race using a great axe will roll 2d12. A orc will roll 3d12. That's darn good damage. Even with just a dagger, he's getting 3d4 instead of 2d4 with his critical. That's good. The relentless endurance is extremely powerful compared to most of what any other race can do. This is one of the most powerful racial abilities in the game. For standard races, again, I'm not talking about anything outside the player's handbook. This is one of the greatest. But the half-orc over here doesn't get much. And I will say, on this one, this is the one race that I actually think 5th edition does a better job with. I think in 3rd edition, they should have given the half-orc a +2 racial bonus on his intimidation, which would be the same thing as this menacing over here, getting proficiency in intimidation. You could have done that. You could have done a couple other things, I think, with the half-orc. The half-orc, they improve in 5th edition. All the other races, I think, are generally about equal between the two. Given the mechanics of 3rd edition and the mechanics of 5th edition, all other races, in general, are equal. The elf in 3rd edition is just as good as the elf in 5th edition. They didn't improve it, they didn't weaken it. The same is true of every other race. A lot of people say that 5th edition made the human much better. I disagree. I think that the human in 3rd edition, for the mechanics of 3rd edition, is just as good as the human is for the mechanics of 5th edition. The orc, the half-orc, is the only one that I actually will say that I believe the half-orc was improved in 5th edition. I think we could do some better stuff with the half-orc in 3rd edition. But we're going to end it here. I think this is good for our half-orc. The last one in this series will be the half.